Hello, hello. Welcome again to the penultimate episode of the BATTASS Podcast, the Batman the Animated Series podcast where we talk about Batman the Animated Series, or in this case, Batman Beyond. My name is Clay McCormack, and with me, as always, is Sean Murphy. How you doing, Sean?
Do you ever play a video game so much that when you turn it off, you start to look at your real-world life? You're walking down the street, and you look at the side of a building, and you're like, you know, I could probably rappel up the side of that just like Assassin's Creed right now. No problem.
You're one of those people the parents were worried about who was going to play GTA 3 and then go out and start killing hookers and stuff.
There's a part in one of these episodes where a character rips some turbines off of the side of a machine, and I'm playing Tears of the Kingdom right now, and I'm like, oh, great, you can attach this to a plank and then use it to fly around.
Yeah, I'm having a similar issue. I'm in the middle of playing Doom, so I'm walking down the street, and I'll look up, and all of a sudden I'll say, like, you know what, I could probably take that thing down with a plasma cannon or possibly a rocket launcher.
Did they still have the BFG in that game?
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
Big time.
I imagine that's kind of a staple.
Yeah, it's fun. It's a good one. Although I will honestly say, there's the house across the street from me in the last couple of years has decided to go full on for Halloween and Christmas decorations. Mm-hmm. And this year they put a giant green light up wreath on the top peak of their house, which is directly across from the window of my living room. So as I'm watching TV, light. No, the light isn't too bad. It's like not coming in or anything, but as I'm watching TV, I've got this big green circle in my peripheral vision, and I've been playing video games too long that every time I see it, I think it's like a portal or something.
Yeah, you have to go and unlock that milestone across the street. If I get a new pistol.
Exactly. If I jump through it and I complete a short secondary task, then I'll get extra missiles on my machine gun or something.
Yeah. It's funny, these games, like, they're not close to real life, but it's not enough to be Link saving the kingdom. You have side quests, and then you run into characters. You're like, oh, my daughter's across the river. How do I get over there? It's like, can't you fucking deal with your own problems? Like, Link's got other shit to do. We've got, like, primary, secondary, tertiary goals in this game, and I'm wondering, like, I've got those kinds of tiers and goals in my own life. I'm not sure I need to play as a little elf helping other people with their problems, and I'm currently trying to help my own friends with their problems.
Yeah, and there's that level where you got to take Link's dog to the vet every month. You got to help Zelda with her insurance payments.
Yeah, well, it's more exciting with a sword and a shield.
Oh, yeah. That's why I always bring a sword and a shield to the vet when I go.
With these games where it's like, I've never played them, but they're mostly games on your phone, but you're managing a cafe and deciding on the price of coffee. It's like, how is that fun for anybody?
Yeah. There's a lot of people who really like the games where it's like, now you have to build like an ecosystem where you have to build walls and build a castle and farm and shit, and I've just never been into that. Although a friend of mine has been telling me about a game which I can't remember the name of right now, but it's a World War II, or maybe it's just I don't know if it's World War I or II, but it's a game where there's like 3 different sets of people who are playing it. So there's people who are basically playing like a civilization type game where they're kind of strategizing real time, and there's other people who are on the ground actually playing as soldiers and stuff, and you all have to work together, and it's a very cool idea, and apparently it's very, very good.
Yeah, sure, it sucks you in like crazy.
Anyway, we've come to the second to last grouping of episodes for Batman Beyond. We are talking about Betrayal and Countdown, so we're going to take a quick break. We'll come back and we'll talk about those.
What happened? You panic?
I was never gonna go to the cops. I only went along with it so you'd get rid of the Major for me.
What?
I wanted to bring you and some others in and gradually push him out. But when you ran off, I thought of a faster way of doing it. See, the Major's got lots more men all over town. And now they're my men. And none of them know I helped take him down. They're all gonna think you ran straight to the cops, and I was able to get away.
But the commissioner knows.
You think anybody in my circle would believe a cop?
Okay, Betrayal. Story by Stan Berkowitz and Robert Goodman. Teleplay by Stan Berkowitz, directed by Kyung-Won Lim. And this one, Big Time, returns to Neo-Gotham, causing problems for both Batman and his alter ego, Terry McGinnis, who still feels guilty about what happened to him. First thing I noticed, different voice. They upgraded from Stephen Baldwin to Clancy Brown for Big Time.
Yeah, noticed that too.
And second, the guy who is the major, the guy who's like his boss or whatever, they just took what that guy looks like in real life and turned him into a cartoon. He's that guy that shows up in like the Coen Brothers movies all the time.
Yeah,
he was the
Polito.
Yeah, he was the
Ron.
Who was it?
In the Rocketeer, he's the guy that's like he basically would play the brand manager.
Yes, he's the brand manager. Yes, yeah. He plays the second detective that's trailing Lebowski in The Big Lebowski, and he also, the thing I always knew him from is he's the pawn shop owner in The Crow.
Yep.
Who runs away yelling "shit on me," which always stuck in my head.
Hey, I rewatched that recently, and I was expecting to be disappointed because, I thought I was just romanticizing the '90s goodness. Mm-hmm. But it is better than I remember.
Does it hold up?
Honestly.
I haven't watched it in a long time.
I mean, it comes under crossfire because it helped build what goth was in the '90s, and it's over the top and very saturated with gothicness.
Yes.
But. Yeah, no, it's not as cringy as you are thinking.
Yeah, I remember it being pretty. I own it on DVD. I just don't have. I don't think I've watched it in 10 years. Probably more than that. It's one of those movies. I was scrolling through Blu-ray deals the other day on Amazon, and that one came up on 4K, and it was like $15 or something. And I was like, do I want to get The Crow on 4K? And I was like, I don't know if I've opened the disc that I currently own in 15 years, so I don't know if I necessarily right now need to upgrade, but maybe eventually.
Yeah. The Crow it's basically a black and white movie with red and orange in it. Like, it's crazy how the palette, they messed around with the palette, and considering the late Brendan Lee died, they were managed to scrounge together some kind of ending, and
I actually do. I would love to watch that in high def in some capacity because my memory of that movie is mostly from a VHS that I had that I taped off the TV. So it's my internal memory of it is incredibly dark. And so I'd like to see it a little bit clearer.
That's kind of the charm.
It is.
Yeah, the VHF, the noise in the TV, I forget the distortion, whatever. Yeah, I don't know if a 4K, I don't want to see a squeaky clean Crow. I kind of like it grainy.
Yeah. The Crow, unfortunately, not in this episode, but this is a sequel to the episode Big Time, where Terry's buddy, who turned into giant elephant man on steroids, comes back. And what did you think about this one?
I found myself fast forwarding through a lot of it. I couldn't keep up with him turning on him and trying to play Terry and his plan to frame someone and to take over the whatever. I actually kind of like this one because I did like the playing on Terry feeling bad about putting him in jail, and then Big Time trying to use that sympathy in order to help, in order to get Terry to help him take out the guy he was feuding with. And there's a scene though towards the beginning where I guess it's kind of like midway through when they finally have their face to face, and Terry's trying to tell him to turn the other guy in and stuff. Terry starts making some promises about how the justice system is going to treat Big Time, which he in no way could actually come through on. He's like, no, it'll be fine this time when you go to jail. It'll be a nicer jail. They'll be really nice to you. You probably won't even be in there that long. And I was thinking, Terry, I don't think you should be telling this guy this stuff. That's a good point. Yeah. Wonder why they changed his voice, because that other actor sounds nothing like an 18-year-old child.
Yes. Yeah. Clancy Brown is it's not only is it just Clancy Brown. I think it's I think they like pitched his voice down or something because it's even deeper than it usually is.
Yeah. I wondered if he's just that good at controlling his voice.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. But yeah, it was. I didn't even recognize it at first. I'm usually pretty good with his voice in particular.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was like, oh, that kind of sounds like him, but it doesn't really sound like him. And it was.
Yeah.
How did would you have liked more of the Joe Polito? Is it Joe Polito?
I don't know if it's Joe.
Whatever it is, Polito.
Yeah.
Brand manager.
I don't know what I would have wanted in this. I think the things that it does well is the thing that the first episode did well. Introduced Terry's background history, running around with gangs, his friend who got caught and Terry didn't, Terry's guilt. Like, all right, that's all. The best stuff from this is the best stuff from the first one. So I feel like for a part 2, I kind of wanted to see more.
Yeah.
And I think they thought, oh, we'll just have him irredeemable. Like, he's turned on Terry completely. And he's just trying to move up, and Terry has to... Oh, I got a question for you. At the very end, I assume that bridge is over a river or something?
I think so, yeah.
Are we supposed to assume that dude is just dead?
I think it was water. Yeah, because in the IMDb trivia, it says that the end of the episode is similar to the end of the last Clayface episode, where Clayface falls off a bridge or something into the water and then disintegrates.
Right. But this guy's 10 feet tall.
Yeah.
Literally, they say he's 10 feet tall, and he's strong as shit. And I have a feeling like him hitting the waters, and you might as well go down there and go after him,
Yeah.
It's not like... The way they frame it is as if he's falling down a cliff, and he's falling to his death, basically. And, like, with Clayface, that makes sense, because the water is going to literally water him down.
Yeah.
But this guy, like, I don't know. Yeah.
He's probably really dense. He probably doesn't swim very well.
Yeah,
Sank like
one
a rock.
side is so much stronger, he can only swim in a circle.
Yeah.
Until he runs out of energy.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, this character design, like, think about steroids on one side, like one huge arm, one huge leg, and then skinny on the other side with a Solomon Grundy face.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's stuff in here that I think this episode does kind of highlight one of the things I wish that this series as a whole did a little better, which is when Big Time first shows up again with his fashionable leg pouch that he has for stealing jewels or whatever he's stealing.
Yeah.
Bruce starts giving Terry advice, being like, you probably shouldn't get involved in this. I know what it's like to have a friend go bad and yada, yada, yada. I wish that kind of stuff happened more in the show. Because as the show goes on, I feel like Bruce really ends up sort of being pushed to the background quite a bit.
Yeah.
And I understand it's Batman Beyond, you're aiming it at kids, and they don't want to watch a show about their grandfather teaching lessons. But from like a character standpoint, it seems such an easy layup to have Bruce there to impart wisdom or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's weird too, because like by this point in the show, I feel like Terry is openly hostile with Bruce. Like they very much have a antagonistic relationship by this point, and it's strange. Because it never really, I don't know. It maybe
goes back and forth too. It's like sometimes he's hostile, and he's like, and sometimes the show is trying to say, you guys are more alike than you realize. And Terry's like, yeah, I guess so. But it does whatever the episode needs them to do.
Yeah. I guess
not consistent.
It's just kind of weird that the only scenes in this one with Bruce are Terry being like, I don't need to listen. You don't know what's going on. He's like, Terry, come on. Stop it. And he's like, no, I'm going to go out. I don't know. Well, maybe it's all just laying groundwork for the secret that we find out in the final Batman Beyond epilogue that we'll be covering next episode.
Yeah. But it's funny because the whole series doesn't do a particularly good job of getting into Bruce's frame of mind and his fatherly wisdom helping Terry out until epilogue sort of does a lot of heavy lifting on the back end to sort of make up for that void.
Yeah.
In some way, like, oh, spoilers, if Bruce is related to this kid, he had some reservations about getting too close to him, or I don't know.
Yeah. Have you ever read any Batman Beyond comics?
A handful, like the old ones from the late 90s.
Okay. Nothing recent,
They're all
though?
animated. No.
Okay.
No,
I was just curious how much Bruce plays a role in them, or if it is more just Terry in the future.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of the comics for the animated Batman stuff, I liked it because you didn't need to. Every issue was self-contained, and when I was in college, I could find them for $1 each, back issues, and just sort of dive in. And they were fun, but kind of shallow. They never really took many chances that the shows wouldn't take. Like they were always trying to write sort of like one step back from where the shows were, because you couldn't really change a whole lot or disrupt the world or make big decisions.
Never had that issue where Tim Drake develops a heroin addiction.
Yeah. And in a way, I think that's where White Knight managed to get some fans, is because I was able to, like, no, this isn't the Paul Dini universe. Wink, wink.
And also, that is where Tim Drake is in the Murphy verses. He has a crippling heroin addiction.
Yeah, man. Everyone. You draw 50 people in a pinup, and someone's always going to be like, "Yeah, but where's Warhawk?" Or where's Tim, or where's Jason Todd? And it's like I'm already dealing with 20 characters as it is. I can't fit everyone in, and I've got a handful of people that are wondering where Tim Drake is. And
well, you did bring that on your own. You brought that on yourself by writing him into the book very, very offhandedly.
No, just he makes a few appearances in the background. It's like an Easter egg. Mm-hmm. What's wrong with that?
Yeah, you're inviting your own questions, is all I'm saying.
Yeah, I thought that the Easter egg would get people to be like, "Oh, okay," and then they would all go away. But instead, they're like, "Oh, tell me more about that now."
Yeah, that's what Easter eggs usually do. Stop speculation.
Yeah. No, this is where I am bad at connecting with my audience, because I forget that they think that way, and they're not wrong for wanting that, of course. Mm-hmm. But yeah. I forget that my customers are a bunch of nerds who, when they say they want Drake, if you show them a photo, they're going to go, "All right, yeah, give us more." They're not going to be like, "Okay, great," and walk away.
Yeah. Anyway.
Anyway.
Yeah, this I kind of liked what they were doing character-wise. You know what? I think the reason I like this one is it seemed to be more character-driven than a lot of the other ones that we've watched, because it was actually playing with some dynamics between them instead of just being a framing device. Well, I mean, it kind of is still a framing device for action sequences, but it feels a little bit more like there's a little bit going on here, and has potential for more. But on the other side, Big Time, not exactly a very memorable character, unfortunately.
No. I don't know what I would have done to fix this character.
Yeah, I don't know. He's not like... I mean, I understand the idea behind the design being like he turns into something grotesque, careful what you wish for kind of thing.
Right.
But, yeah, is there a way to make him look even more grotesque or, like, cooler? I don't know.
Yeah. Don't know what I would do. Yeah, I think that half of it works. The point of him being Two-Face to Terry, which Bruce almost comments on at the very end.
Yeah.
And then him being this monster, I don't know. I feel like he's so bizarre looking that he's a little hard to relate to. Or if he was still like, if he looked like Terry's age and was still kind of connected to Terry visually in some way, it wasn't just this I don't know. I'm not really sure what I'm saying.
Yeah. What if he was Two-Face, but instead of being a giant tumor monster, he had like half of his body was plasma?
Yeah. What if Two-Face, but instead of side and side, it was top and bottom?
Yeah. They actually just did that in Batman's.
Wait, so he's evil from the waist down?
No, it's face based. But in Batman's City of Madness, which is a Black Label book that came out this past year, there's this alternate version of Gotham City that's sort of kind of like the upside down of Stranger Things a little bit. And there's these inverse negative versions of all the characters. And the version of Two-Face, his face is still scarred, but it's from his nose to his chin instead of the left side of his face.
Oh, yeah. That's weird. So the bottom part of it's from the nose down, he's bad, or does he have two different personalities still?
Sort of. I don't totally remember, but he kind of, I think he's more of a good guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see if I can find a picture of it. I'll send it to you.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I think there's more that could be done here. That seems to be the thing we keep saying in this show, unfortunately. But
yeah, but I feel like I'm a bit of a broken record.
Maybe if Big Time wasn't just gray, that would help. If he was more interestingly colored or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I would make him Terry's size, about Terry's age, maybe a little bit older, sort of more normal looking, with a little bit of some kind of a weird feature. Doesn't necessarily have to be a mutant, but I think it would be more relatable for me if he just didn't look like Frankenstein. Like, I don't think that gets you what you want the plot to give you. You know, I think if the idea is that, you know, because when Batman looks at Two-Face, he can see Harvey. Literally, half of him is still Harvey.
Right.
And he even gets windows of Harvey, so that's what makes it more heart-wrenching, is he seems like he's so close to fixing his friend.
Right.
His friend is still kind of there. None of that exists with Big Time, you know, and the distorted visuals of the character make it even more departed from that. So it's just not connecting for me, I guess.
Yeah, it's hard to do with this guy. What I do like is I think it works from the standpoint of Terry feeling guilty about what has happened to his friend. Sure. Because, you know, Two-Face never really plays the sympathy card with Batman. You know, I don't think Batman explicitly feels like he's directly responsible, except for in Batman Forever, when he was... ever since I was a kid, I have laughed at that sequence in Batman Forever when they show the footage of Harvey Dent getting splashed with acid for two reasons. One, because
this is when he has. Sorry, you got to be more clear in the visuals here. Oh, he has a piece of paper over his face.
Yes, because
in court,
he's in court, and this guy on the stand throws acid at his face, and he holds up a single piece of paper to block the acid from exactly half of his face. You know, this acid that burned through his face, completely blocked by this piece of paper. And then after that...
Well, the paper's acid-free.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, that's a good point. After that, Batman jumps out of the audience of the courtroom.
Because he was sitting there watching the trial.
In full costume. So he was there the whole time, but only jumped out after the guy threw the ad. I don't know. It just always seemed extra ridiculous to me. But
oh yeah, I mean I mean, what do you think the top 3 criticisms are of the Schumacher movies? Because I'm with you, but there is like 20 other things to talk about before you even get to that scene. Like in a comic, if a character held up a piece of paper and I could see the logic kind of working in a comic book. You know, but when you see live action, I feel like the laws of physics are different. People sort of judge it differently. Yeah. I'm just looking at Tommy Lee Jones as Two-Face. It's too bad. Like, he looks great.
I still like Batman Forever. I don't like it as much as the first two, but I have a soft spot for that because that was like right in the I was a big Jim Carrey fan. That was right in the pocket of Jim Carrey, and so I was into that. So it was. I always enjoyed it.
Yeah,
and it's still the only.
Tommy Lee Jones.
The thing that drives me crazy. There have been as many live action movie appearances of Bane as there have been of Robin, which is crazy to me. But you know, who knows? Supposedly getting a new one soon, but we'll see.
And Aaron Eckhart, he got Two-Face. His distortion happened when he was faced halfway down in gasoline or something.
Yeah, like half his face caught fire. Yeah. That kind of makes sense.
Was it like more of a straight line down the middle, or was it sort of asymmetrical to make it look more like a?
It is. It's pretty close to being. Yeah, it's pretty symmetrical.
Yeah. Again, like, why not have it come a little bit more over on the chin, over the forehead, or yeah. Chris Nolan is big on making things as realistic as possible.
I guess it kind of
still looks good though.
The forehead kind of extends over a little bit, so it's not exactly symmetrical, but it's I mean, I always thought that version looked pretty awesome.
Yeah, no, it does. It's kind of a hard design to mess up. Two-Face, you know?
Yeah, you can really...
It's open to so much interpretation, and what do you do with the jacket? Do you make him punk? Do you make him all weird? Do you know?
Yeah. You can do a lot of... Like, I think the Tommy Lee Jones version is just as viable as the Dark Knight one, you know?
Honestly, yeah. Both just so different actors. Such different actors.
Yeah. What would you draw on this one?
What would you...
beat you to it.
There is a... scene that takes place, action scene in an elevator that's outside the building. Like the side of the building is an elevator on it, and there's two, and there's some jumping back and forth and some attacks going on. And I think it would be really cool to do a fight scene with two elevators ascending.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, like double Last Action Hero.
Yeah, exactly. I was just thinking that. Yeah. That scene where he has a cartoonish, like he's falling and it's in slow motion and he's holding on to something that breaks and then he grabs it and looks at it like an Acme cartoon and then he starts falling.
Yeah, I just watched that relatively recently for a podcast with Wes, and I think it still holds up. I always loved Last Action Hero. I know people don't like it, but I always enjoy it.
The first 45 minutes, I'm with you.
Oh yeah, no, it doesn't make a lick of sense. But it's a fun watch.
It is, yeah. It's the pitch is amazing. The concept's crazy. It's so cool. And then you get to this Leo the Fart bullshit, and there's this whole other plot that takes over, and you're like, what?
Yeah.
You guys, it was going really well.
Yeah, I listened to it. Maybe it wasn't with Wes. Maybe I listened to it because maybe I watched it because I was listening to a podcast about it. I've entered that fourth dimensional void now where I can't separate my podcast and my real life.
Like with Assassin's Creed or Zelda.
Yeah,
you can
exactly.
run up the side of buildings.
Yeah. I was listening to a show called Blank Check that I really like, and they were covering Last Action Hero, and they brought up a good point where the reason it doesn't really work is because the people that they got to make it are the same people who are being parodied by it. So, like, John McTiernan is an unbelievable action director, but how much of the piss can he take out of his own stuff, you know?
Yeah.
Because he and Arnold are still trying to make an action movie, a high-end action movie, but they're also trying to make fun of themselves so it's this weird kind of thing where you can't be your jokes can't be as honest as somebody else's might be, you know?
Yeah. Man, I would love a sequel to that movie today. This would never fucking happen.
No, it's a notorious money loser. Probably never going to happen.
For so many reasons. It's like Cutthroat Island levels of disaster as far as funding goes.
Yeah.
But if I'm Arnold, I'm sure he's got other things to do than push a Last Action Hero too.
I mean, at this point, who knows?
Yeah. But, I mean, do more of a low budget, and now that he's older, and because when you saw him in that documentary, he could sort of, he had more humility, and he could depart from criticize who he used to be and the mistakes and all that bravado, and his pissing contest with Stallone. And I wonder that Arnold was cast in a Last Action Hero right now with a director that was more sensitive to what the movie should be and a lower budget, you know. But obviously, that's never going to happen.
Yeah, unfortunately not, probably.
Fortunately not, yeah.
What would I draw on this one? I would do 7 pages just about the brand manager looking guy.
Yeah.
And I would have him leave the events of this episode, so because he gets arrested by Barbara, and then I would do a follow up to this where he gets out and he starts a business where he starts supplying supervillains with all of their unique accoutrement and thugs and all that kind of stuff, and takes on a new moniker of Brand Manager Beyond.
What if he started out calling himself accoutrement and no one knew how to spell it or pronounce it, so he said, screw it, Brand Manager.
That's really funny.
Because I don't even. You do the voice better. How does accoutrement sound?
Accoutrement. Although I don't. Would he say it correctly? Yeah, he'd probably like accoutrement.
Yeah. When he's saying words like dames, every other word, goyles.
My name is Alex Accoutrement.
Accoutre dash or hash hyphen man.
Man, oh, now we're cooking with gas.
Yeah.
What would you rate this one?
I don't know, 2 or 3.
Yeah, I think I'm going to give it a 3, just because I think 3 for potential. Yeah.
I think what confuses me about your rating system sometimes is you can say, like you just said, I like Last Action Hero, but there's a difference between when you say you like a movie versus is it a good movie? You know?
Sure.
Well, like when I say I like a movie, usually I'm also saying I think it's a good movie and I can defend it. But you'll say you like movies that are not good, and you'll say they're not good. No, I'm not making fun of you. Like you'll say this isn't great, but I like it. Like you say that phrase from time to time, so you're able to separate like the grade of a movie versus whether or not you actually enjoy it, which I think is interesting.
Yeah, well, people are contained multitudes, I guess.
Yeah. Because you started out by saying you like this one and you gave it a 3, and I said I don't like this one and I gave it a 3.
Well, I gave it a 3 because I think there's good stuff going on, and I don't know if I would give it higher. I don't think I'd go as high as a 4 with it,
Oh, hell no.
And I assume when you said I'd give it a 2 or a 3, you were leaning more towards a 2.
Yeah, that's fair.
So
you're definitely rating a little higher on this one, but.
So what I'm saying is my rating system might be more complicated, but yours is less clear.
Is that what you're saying? Okay.
Anyway.
I got no good job, man.
We're going to take a quick break, and we'll come back and talk about Countdown.
Basic human rights?
Wait, it's not what you think. Listen.
Big government, big lies. Forget it, man. Power to the people!
Oh, no.
Okay, Countdown, written by Rich Fogel and Paul Dini. Oh, that's actually surprising.
Right? Yeah, I was all excited when I saw Paul's name on this.
Directed, once again, by Kyun Wong Lim. In this one, Zeta returns to Neo-Gotham City to look for his creator, but falls into the clutches of Mad Stan, who turns him into a walking time bomb. Batman and Rowe must track Zeta down before time runs out. I was looking at the episodes we had left, and based on the Wikipedia list, this is the last episode, because I believe this is the last episode they produced. But it is... Wait, is that true? Yes. I believe it is the last episode that they produced, but it is not the last episode that aired. I might have that backwards. Okay. I think it's... Anyway... What I'm trying to say is I was worried that this was going to be the last episode we covered of the show. And when I saw what it was, I was like, oh, fuck, is this just going to be like a backdoor pilot to this other thing? But apparently the Zeta show was already going when this came out. So this is just sort of like a crossover, which is a little bit... This actually, I think, is better than I expected it to be. Yeah. Because I was expecting little to no Batman. And it was just going to be Zeta bullshit I didn't care about, which it is also that. But, yeah, Batman shows up more than I thought he would, and I think this is probably Mad Stan's best appearance, or at least has the most Mad Stan in it, which is fun.
Yeah. I'm looking at, how many episodes did the Zeta Project go for?
Ooh, I don't know.
2 seasons, 26 episodes.
Wow. All right.
Wow, I did not know it had that kind of those kind of legs. And it's such a weird idea to take this character and do a spin-off, because there's so many other obvious characters to play with, and like Superman and the Guardian Gertha, whatever her name was.
Big Barda?
Thank you.
The Guardian Gertha?
I was pretty close.
Yeah, okay.
That's funny. I like when Zeta shows up. He's just this frat boy in a bathrobe, baggy pants. I like the redesign a little bit better, though. He doesn't have that alien-looking head.
Yeah, they clearly redesigned him because they looked at the last one and said, kids won't care about, like, we can't, they needed to make it look more humanoid, so kids would, A, not be scared by it, and B, find it relatable, I guess.
Yeah, it has these circle eyes that kind of turn depending on what his emotions are, so he can kind of look sad and kind of look happy in a robotic way, which is pretty clever. Mm-hmm. I'm always happy to see Henry Rollins doing voiceovers. I think that Mad Stan has a lot more potential than they tapped into. I was thinking that because he's a little bit very close to the character Lockdown in the original TAS, and I thought it would be cool if like Stan was actually that guy's nephew or something like that.
Oh yeah,
and that's how he got his start.
Yeah.
There's an article that popped up when I was researching, and it was talking about how Mad Stan is this universe's Punisher. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I mean, I would say he's like the Mad Magazine version of the Punisher, because like his,
because he's got politics.
Yeah, he has politics, and the explanation for why he does what he does in this episode is actually hilarious. Which is he starts, they pin down that all of Mad Stan's outbursts are based around like political things that affect him. Yeah. And this one, he goes on a bombing rampage because they raised the amount it costs to get pet insurance for his dog.
Is that? I missed that.
Yes.
That must be Paul Dini's influence.
It's got to be, yeah.
And then having a dog, a little cute Chihuahua named Boom Boom, and then you get into Mad Stan's houseboat, and it's all these stickers that says "Have a nice day," and it's just very not what you think it would be. I feel like that had to be. I'm just gonna say all the good stuff, probably because of Paul Dini.
I know it's unfair. I'm sure that Rich Fogel is a very good writer in and of himself. He's written a lot of these things, but
yeah, he has.
But it's because the fee on pet insurance. Oh, I'm sorry, not pet insurance, pet licenses.
Right.
The fee to get a pet, which is even funnier because it's even more ridiculous. Yeah. The fee it cost to get a new license for his dog went up, and so he starts blowing up buildings.
So there's so many coincidences in this episode. You've got this robot, this android, is coming back to town, Zeta. He just happens to be attacked by Jokers, and Mad Stan happens to just save him because he's clearly being attacked by the man. So you have Mad Stan being the hero and saving this guy, who turns out to be one in a billion people because, connected to this ongoing Batman. So it's just so many coincidences like that I don't know.
Gotham City's a crazy place.
Yeah, I hear.
Who knows what street you turn down, who you might run into. It might be a group of Jokers. It might be a hyper futuristic robot with cloaking abilities, or Mad Stan.
I did like the end when Terry gave him the car and Zeta could just drive away and smile, and you got this cool hero shot of him behind the wheel taking off.
Yeah. This isn't the end of Zeta. Like, right, the Zeta project is still ongoing at this point. This isn't like a wrap-up episode for him.
Let me see. Year 2001. So he aired after this episode. So it looks like this would be the launching point.
Oh,
for this.
Okay.
All right, so if it's true that the Zeta project came out in 2001 and this episode came out in 2000, and this is the design for Zeta that goes into the Zeta project, I mean, there's your timeline, right?
So it says, I'm looking at on IMDb, it says the events of Countdown happened before the events of Shadows, which is the 8th episode of the first season of the Zeta project.
Okay.
But does that mean that the Zeta project...
Zeta was supposed to be a mix of Frankenstein, Blade Runner, and The Fugitive. That's pretty cool, actually.
On paper, sure.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's all in execution. It sounds like a cool
I guess
idea.
The first episode was from January 27th, 2001.
Yeah.
And this episode of Batman Beyond is from April 7th, 2001. So, yeah, I guess Zeta Project happened after this did.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, I'm an idiot. No, January obviously comes before April. So the first episode of Zeta was in January. and then this episode was in April, so it's
Right.
it's in the middle of the first season. Yeah, okay.
Right. I keep trying to find a way to work Timothy Dalton into this podcast, and I can't.
Oh, it doesn't matter. He's dead.
Rest in peace.
R.I.P.
Oh man.
I actually, I really appreciate all the Mad Stan stuff in this. Like, this is the episode. You're right, where you see how much potential as a character this guy has just because of how ridiculous he is.
Yeah.
But he's got this insane, ridiculous. So whereas the Joker or the Riddler or something will pull off a part of his plan that is twisted and maniacal in how smart and devious it is, right? Mad Stan will do something just as impressive, but it's just really stupid.
Yeah.
Because when they get to his place and he's asleep and they play that video and he's like, if you're watching this, I'm asleep because I have taken a bunch of sleeping pills and I'm the only person who can shut this off. You're never going to be able to wake me up. I was like, that's really funny.
My first thought was, that doesn't make any sense. But then I thought, no, because Stan is set up as this character that, like, all the conspiratorial bullshit in his brain, it makes sense to him.
Yeah.
So I think you can get away with a lot with that character who's so over the top. And he has his own ethos, which is nice. And he's powerful enough to give Batman and the cops a run for their money. He kind of doesn't care that Batman's there or not. His thing has nothing to do with Batman, whereas Joker is not like that.
Yeah. Yeah, he's a Batman villain who is also just a dumbass.
Yeah.
And so he does the same kind of Batman villain stuff, but it's run through a very dumb filter.
Yeah.
And it's somehow like they don't play him like an idiot. You know, it's like there's a very fine line with a character like this where he could be obviously dumb, or he could be the more you look at it, you realize how stupid this guy is, and they definitely have gone that way, where he's loud, he's brash, he's ridiculous, but as you get into it, it's like, oh, he thinks he's really smart, but he's actually a goofball.
Well, he's smart enough to know how to stay off grid, how to set up, the resources to set up traps and booby traps and cameras around his place. His plan is just about as successful as any Joker plan.
True. Yeah.
He's just more blunt and linear. He's not a complicated character at all. But
yeah,
I don't think he's dumb. He's definitely a meathead.
Yeah.
It just, and I wonder, like, who came first, Rollins or the idea for this character?
That one time where Rollins owed Paul Dini money and he went to go get it, and Rollins had taken a bunch of sleeping pills and left a note saying, "You'll never be able to get your money now, Paul."
And he woke up in a recording booth at Warner Brothers. He's like, "Oh no, hey man."
It does feel like the kind of character that somebody writes after hanging out with Henry Rollins for like a day. They're going like, okay, what is the most ridiculous version of this guy?
Yeah. No, and like being coming from the Henry Rollins way of thinking in his world and looking back on this, like to see aggro, over the top punk guy get classified or to be it's kind of making fun of it, of course. But I think it is. Is that what it's trying to do? Is it basically people who are like Henry Rollins are not to be taken seriously because they're ridiculous? Is that what the episode is telling us, you think? Maybe not Henry himself, but that kind of
maybe. Sorry, I got distracted because I have the Zeta Project page up on IMDb, and you know how they play the trailers that just kind of play through?
Yeah.
It finished with Zeta Project stuff and then moved into some sort of Christmas movie that has an astounding level of blackface in it, and I don't know what it is.
That's season 2 of Zeta Project.
Oh, excellent. It sounds great.
The robot
I think it's
becomes a black person.
Whatever it is, it's French or something.
Yeah.
I'll send you a picture of what I saw a second ago. Do I think... I don't know if it's necessarily... I think it's kind of talking about how silly those people can be.
Right,
me send you this picture. You're gonna love this.
It's great for an audio podcast.
I know. Yeah. I just sent it to you on Discord.
Yeah. Oh, Jesus. I thought it was an Eddie Murphy movie at first.
No, I don't know what it is. It's some sort of French or maybe Belgian.
It looks like a parody of Harry Potter played by overweight adults, and they're all wearing blackface, sitting at their desks.
I think it's supposed to be. So I know that in... Oh, my God.
What is it called?
Nickelodeon is involved with this?
Oh, boy.
It's called Saint Nicholas.
All right.
And then a bunch of French underneath it. I'm not so. It's so I know that in Europe.
Okay, you got to be careful, man. I don't think this is very good radio.
No, it's not. I know in Europe Santa has like helpers who are, let's say, wouldn't fit in over here culturally. Let's put it that way. And so I think it's playing on that stuff. Anyway, who cares? Batman Beyond. We're getting towards the end here.
I can tell. Crawling to the finish line. Yeah. The thing that I would draw is I would love to draw Mad Stan, but also his cool 16-wheeler armored truck.
Yeah, that thing is cool. Yeah. I would want to draw the sequence where the Zeta, I think, throws one of the Jokers off of a bridge. Mm-hmm. And then he lands on the windshield of the Batmobile.
Yeah, that
because in real life that guy would have exploded like the toxic waste guy from RoboCop.
They took a lot of pains to show that he had survived. Because as soon as he goes flying off a building, I'm like, all right, is he going to land in a tree? Is it going to be a rooftop pool? I mean, you only have so many options here. And he lands on a razor-sharp Batmobile going 100 miles an hour.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He would have, like Mega Man when he gets killed in Mega Man, just with a bunch of tiny little dots.
There's a lot of Batman car porn in this episode. You get a lot of shots of it taking off, the cockpit door opening up. And I feel like they never really created a model of how the Batmobile looks. I feel like they drew it as sketches, and it looks good from like a few angles, but you're not really sure how to turn it in space. I'd be shocked if they didn't actually make a 3D model just to take photos of it and just send the animators, because why wouldn't you? But it feels like they didn't, because it's just such an oblong. Is that the correct word for that type of shape?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a strange shape, yeah.
Yeah. If you took two semicolons and glued them together in different directions with a red cockpit in the middle, that's what it looks like.
Yeah. I wonder if something like that is more or less difficult to animate than a traditional car or vehicle shape.
I definitely think so. There's this guy in Texas that made all these action figures based on White Knight, and he even did the White Knight Batmobile, like the one from the first. And I asked him, "Are you going to do the Beyond one?" And he goes, "I'm so intimidated because I think I would get it wrong. Something about that type of shape. It's more organically shaped and rounded, and he had like engineering and structural reasons why it's harder to do that unless he had like an actual copy of it in his hands he was holding. It's hard to get with photos what the dimensions are of that kind of object versus something that's based off a car that's like a little bit wider.
So he's a coward, is what you're saying?
He's a giant pussy.
Well, isn't the one that you designed is a little bit more streamlined, isn't it?
Yeah. So that's the one I sent him photos of, and he goes, "It's cool. Maybe I'll get to it one day." But I almost wanted to like bring it to him and just have him borrow it for a while to help him out.
I mean, now that you're saying that, it sounds like he doesn't want to do it because he doesn't like it.
Yeah, probably. I mean, he made a pregnant Harley Quinn action figure. The guy
who doesn't love that?
You squeeze your belly.
Oh no! Please, I could never.
Out.
I could never do this version of your Batmobile, Sean. It's too intimidating. Yeah. I was trying to find a picture of your version, and I couldn't find one online, but I did find one of a pinup that you did of Batman Beyond that looks like you did the more of the classic one.
Is it with Ace in the background on the
top? Yeah, and I like the way you kind of simplified that. It looks cool.
Yeah, that's just me trying to do the traditional one.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's easy from one angle. What would you give this one from a rating?
It's another 3 from me.
I'm gonna give it a 4 just because of Henry Rollins.
Yeah. Okay.
I know it's not a 4, but yeah.
Yeah. I if I'm being honest, it's probably a higher 3. I think I'm a little bit biased because I was expecting this to be a lot worse. I was expecting it to just be Zeta shit, but it's actually a very enjoyable episode.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'd go so far as 4, but it's a high 3 at the very least.
Sure.
Okay.
Kind of a non sequitur here. I was trying to think of training my assistant and going to shows and conventions and sitting at the table. I was starting to go through a list of things that creators do wrong at their table. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you've ever thought about this. You ever thought in your head, like, things that you've learned about tabling at a convention, how to sell, how to display, how to talk to people?
I don't know if I've ever really written it down, so to speak, but I think it's a thing you just kind of learn the more you do it. Like I am always on the fence about what to put out on the table because I kind of developed a pretty solid funneling system that involve the alpha beatdown drawings that I do, my pages for Bloody Hell, and then my books. And like it's very easy for me to cycle one person through those things because if they start flipping through the Bloody Hell pages, I go, oh, those are all from this book, and then I give them the pitch for the book, and usually they go, oh, that's cool, and they buy the book. And like vice versa, if they flip through the book, I'll be like, oh, all the stuff in here is from these pages, or that kind of thing. Yeah, I'm not as good with prints. I don't know how to. I've never really figured out how to be like, look at these prints, buy one of these prints, other than people just seeing them and doing that themselves. Yeah. But I do know there's people who have like a whole theory built around. Like I know a guy who he would get down to the minutia of like nothing. What the hell was it? It was everything on the table should be able to be purchased with one bill or something like that, or like the way he priced things was a certain way, so it's like if they're buying 2 things it's like $14, but if they buy 3 things it's a solid 20, so it's like, oh, it's actually just easier to give you 20 than it is to get $6 or $7 change, something like that.
Yeah, no, it's funny. Like the art of tabling, it is worth like breaking up into different categories because you're talking about pricing, you're talking about display, you're talking about selling and talking to people. Like you're pitching your book and trying to get them to buy a copy. You have good table energy, for sure.
Oh, thanks.
I have, I think, good table energy, positive vibes. But it's funny because you know what I'm talking about when you go up to a table with bad table energy. Oh, yeah. Sometimes the person's head down and doesn't even look up to say hi. You feel like you're just super awkward for both of you. Sometimes the first thing they say is they throw prices at you like it's 1 for this and 2 for $30. If you need it's kind of not impolite, but it's a little abrupt. There's no warmth there, and I just think about like the different mistakes that creators make at the tables as far as their table energy.
Yeah. Have you noticed your approach to going to somebody's table change since you are someone who works a table?
Yeah, I go around the back because they'll usually know me.
Because I've noticed that what I do is I get a little bit more weird about actually engaging the person behind the table because I know if that's me, I'm kind of going to get my hopes up that maybe they're going to buy something. And if I'm coming over to a table that I'm really not particularly, I want to check it out, but I don't want to buy anything. Right. I feel bad if I were to start chatting with the person and be like, all right, well, see you later. I hate, because that's the most annoying thing as a person who does conventions is to talk to someone for 10 minutes and then they just walk away.
You're right. Yeah. And there's a lot of people with not great social skills walking around. You know, it's a lot of autism at those shows on both sides of the table. Yeah, it is. And plus, you know, you're at different levels of your career. You know, if you don't have a lot of people at your table, then you're a target for someone who's lonely to come over and chat you up about the Zeta Project for a half hour and not buy anything.
Oh man, it's like the crucible. Everyone who does comic conventions has to go through is the early years getting those people who come over. And I honestly, I don't mind them that much. Well, it depends on how long they stay, but the people who come over and they will just talk to you about comic stuff that you have never read.
Yeah.
But they love, and they just want someone to talk to. As Glengarry Glen Ross says, some people just like talking to salesmen.
Yeah.
And
that's definitely a hurdle you have to deal with.
Yeah,
in the beginning stages.
It's really interesting. Like, I've even seen people who've been working in the business for 40 years get these people. It's crazy. And it's but you know, it's your comic convention. People want to talk about comics. I think it's one of the harder things to wriggle out of once somebody gets started. But I did have one surreal experience where one year in Boston, I was talking to a guy who was probably 6'5", you know, pretty big dude, dressed like V from V for Vendetta.
Oh yeah.
And he basically talked to me for about 35 minutes about the history of the symbiotes in the Marvel Universe.
Did he ever take his mask off?
No, he did not.
Okay, see, I've met that guy in many different forms.
Yes.
People who like forget that they're wearing a fucking mask and that it's off-putting. And I've been doing this long enough now, or usually my table is busy enough where I don't get those guys. They'll just skip over me and go somewhere else.
Yeah,
but when I do get one, I'm like, hey, man, I have a weird anxiety about masks. You mind taking it off for a bit? Like, I'd love to see the color of your eyes. Like, I'll just ask them to take the mask off. And usually they do.
Yeah. I found the whole thing to be kind of amusing in a weird sort of psychedelic kind of way. So I was into it for that first time. But then, you know, you get some people who just come over and they just talk. And it's like, okay, you got to try to be as nice as you can about it. And, you know, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. No, for us, what are some of the tricks I learned? Well, there's like logistical stuff. Like, I need to know which way the line is coming from because I usually have a line. And if I put the prints facing out, so you walk by the prints and look at the merchandise before you get close to talking to us. So
sure.
And by the way, we don't always have a line, and that's fine too. But I sort of set up thinking we'll probably be busy when I show up and after lunch and stuff like that. So, you know, people walk by the prints, and then they walk by the books, and then they get closer to you. They get to the smaller items, like $5 prints of Ninja Turtles and stuff like that. And you get a lot of impulse buys that we have right in front of them. And we even learned to print out our small $5 prints on this type of paper that it's a little bit, it's not smooth and glossy and doesn't slide all over the place. It like sticks to itself. So we've got these stacks that don't generally get disheveled because of the type of paper we printed them out on. It kind of holds together these like towers.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's such a stupid thing, but like the table stays so clean because of this type of paper we use. It holds everything together. Yeah. And, you know, we've got a bunch of different types of customers. Like I've talked about this before, you know, if there's a girl there, it's like 50-50 chance. She has no idea who I am, and she's there for a husband/boyfriend/brother. You get kids who are artists who want a portfolio review. You got people that just need to unload about how much they like your book, or you can't get a word in until they say their thing, basically, you know. And then you've got someone who's got like a pause before they start speaking, and it's like, okay, is it like a stutter, or is it English as a second language? Because you just sort of get used to seeing the same sort of folks over and over, and you know, mostly they're all wonderful. But yeah, I've been sort of having to think about table science in a way, and how to sell on your feet, and table energy, you know, trying to train my new assistant, and he's better at it in a lot of ways than I am because he actually used to work at a comic book shop and deal with a lot of these people.
When you're training him, are you using the clicker method, or are you using like a treat-based system?
I make him sit and then I give him a bone. Wait, that came out wrong.
Yikes.
Yeah. But Yeah, no, it's fascinating, and even at every show, I'll take him. His name's Jake. I'll be like, Jake, let's walk around, look at everybody else's table, and we'll see like who's got ideas that are working well for them, what people are doing wrong. Like there's a lot of really successful artists who work just with the wrong art reps who don't have a good display, don't have a good maintenance of the line. They don't have a good bedside manner. They're not friendly. They're not warm. And I think a lot of artists they're not paying attention. They're not thinking about how their table business could be better managed, and their profits maximized.
Yeah. Yeah. The problem I always run into is how to, I don't know if you can hear my dog drinking water in the background. He does it very loudly.
I can't.
It's, I always bring more stuff than I end up putting out because every time I approach the table, it ends up being slightly different.
Yeah.
And you kind of have to make your decisions about what's going to go out, what isn't. So I hate bringing single issues of comics with me because it's just so bulky. And, if you've got 5 copies of issue 2 and 14 copies of issue 3 and 1 copy of issue 1, you're never going to sell that shit.
Yeah.
So I tend to leave the single issues behind, but even with full books, it's like, all right, well, what's the best way to display these books to get people to look at them? And you want to make sure they can flip through it easily and not feel weird about that. So that's always, and is it good to have books of original art out? I have found that the Bloody Hell pages work very well for me. But I don't have anything else because that's such a big book. I don't really have anything else that has a lot of recognizable comic characters in it. So that's why my smaller book has the Alpha Beatdown drawings, which is all recognizable imagery. So, people will come over and be like, oh shit, that's the bride from Bride of Frankenstein, and start flipping through that. And then I'll give them the whole rundown of that. And then that will lead them to, other stuff. And so that's the tough thing is, catching people's eye and how do you translate that into them going through the rest of your stuff? I do have something that has proven to be a rule, a cosmic rule that has, in the 15 or so years or 20 years I've been doing this, anytime I make a print specifically for a show, I never sell a single copy of that print. It's like clockwork. Anytime, I'm going to make a new print for this show. I think it's going to go really well. I sell none of them. And then the next show, I'll probably sell some more and then, maybe have a better show later. But anytime I do that specifically for a show, that's why I don't make that many prints anymore. The first couple years I was doing it, I was getting 50 prints or 100 prints. And then I would end up with 98 prints that I couldn't get rid of. Yeah. So I do much smaller runs now just because, I don't want to waste $300 on prints that I'm not going to sell for 2 years.
Yeah. One thing that we've been doing lately differently is these $5 prints, and because we never really have any items at the table for under $20.
Sure.
And I've thought that I didn't want to do cheap items, but I'll be goddamned if they aren't selling.
Yeah,
and,
that's great. Those are the small color sketches of the X-Men and stuff.
Yeah. So the trick is to do the Ninja Turtles. So you got 4 turtles, so you're automatically going to sell 4. Maybe 5 or 6 if you draw Casey Jones and Splinter, because no one's just going to buy Donatello. And the other thing I learned, too, is Ninja Turtle people see green from across the room, and they'll come right at you.
Nice.
You don't think about...
and you see green as they're coming toward you.
There's the Netflix Toys That Made Us. They talk about Ninja Turtles. And the toy companies all hated green, and that was what was so wild is the Turtles killed because they were the first green mass-produced toy like that.
Sure.
And it's worked to the advantage. So there's nothing else on the market that's green in the same way. So Ninja Turtle people have a radar for anything that color green. And I don't have a big poster of Ninja Turtles. I don't advertise that. I'm not known as a Ninja Turtle guy, but tiny little green prints at my front of me, they'll come right up and they won't see that they're cutting the line, and they just want to grab these turtle prints. And I'll be goddamned if these fucking things didn't make us $3,000 by the end of New York Comic Con. Yeah,
that's crazy.
The thing that I didn't even want to do. And I was also worried about watering down my brand. Not to sound pretentious, but if I'm known as like the Batman car guy, I should maybe be careful about going too far out of my wheelhouse. Ninja Turtles is like, I don't know. And I already have a Cowboy Bebop print and a Final Fantasy VII print, which was also weird for me, but I managed to find like the vehicles in each world. So yeah, I guess it kind of makes it a Sean Murphy joint at that point. But what you don't want to do, I think, is you have so many different prints that you're not known for any one thing.
Right.
Like for your table, you give off like noir horror vibes with your content. And then if you had a few Ninja Turtle prints, that would probably work for you, especially if there was a movie coming out that year, or if you had done a Deadpool Wolverine print that year. Sorry, I'm sort of talking about a few things at the same time.
No, I get you. I've been thinking about this coming year. I've got a good Turtles drawing that I was going to turn to a print. So
yeah.
I didn't hit any of the shows this past year that would have been ideal for it since it was the 40th anniversary. But we'll see what happens this year.
When you do a turtle print, Clay, color it, because I'm telling you, the green is a game changer for turtles.
Definitely get it colored. Yeah.
If it was Batman, it wouldn't be the same. Even with Deadpool, Wolverine, that yellow and red pops out at people now. I had Corinne do a pinup, and she sold all of them at New York Comic Con, and she didn't even want to draw them because it's not in her vampire brand, But there's something about trying to just play off the market and be a bit of a shill if you have to. I mean, you're there to make money,
Right.
Yeah. Just sort of collecting those things in my head.
Yeah. We'll turn this into an audiobook someday. Do that thing Bill Maher did where he just goes back through 25 years of his show and takes his what is the final thing he does? The new rules. And he just turns those into editorials basically and put them in a book.
Where he gets to sound extra pretentious.
Yeah, and we can have one chapter that's all about hentai. It'll be great.
I mean, I like Bill Maher, but he is pretentious and he knows it.
The thing that's funny about him, not his jokes. Anytime I watch him do an interview, if somebody makes a joke at his expense, you can watch his brain start to boil, and he cannot take a joke if it's directed at him. The next thing he always says is something really mean towards the person who just said it, and it's man, wow. For a guy who dishes it out, he cannot take it.
It's funny. He had Bill Burr on his podcast, and they got along great, and it was a great episode or whatever. But Bill can't not jab at people, and he jabbed at Bill Maher. And I had my head down because I was working, but I'm curious if he bristled.
Oh, I'm sure he did. I mean, he might have been too fucked up at that point because he's pretty. Anything I've seen from the video of that podcast is oh, this is you come to his basement and he gets drunk and just talks to you like he's your uncle from that you get stuck with at Thanksgiving. Great.
Yeah, he just did one with Zachary Levi, who I didn't realize had gone. He's stumping for Trump and RFK Jr. and I don't agree with what Levi thinks and says. I do find him likable and charming and nice in the podcast, though.
Oh yeah, I mean that was his whole brand.
Yeah, it's hard to square that in my head. If I was his advisor, I'd be like, dude, you want to kiss goodbye to your career? What Hollywood is. It doesn't matter if you're right or not. Put that aside. You're gonna lose a lot of potential. You're gonna be like Kevin Sorbo Town. Is that what you want?
Yeah, it's been an interesting year or so for that guy.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Kevin Sorbo or
Zachary Levi.
Yeah, I know.
That's gonna do it for Countdown and Betrayal, and we have decided that the next episode will be the final episode of the BATTASS Podcast. So we will be covering Countdown. No, I'm sorry, that's the one we just did. I'm losing my mind here.
Did we get any responses of people saying if they wanted us to keep going or end it?
I mean, people are always going to say that they want us to keep going, there's nothing to say we can't come back. But the episode we are doing is, these are all out of order. Unmasked. So it's Unmasked, which will be our final Batman Beyond episode, and Epilogue from Justice League Unlimited, which is the wrap up of the Batman Beyond story, and we're going to do some listener questions and stuff. So if you guys want to reach out to us, you can do that send us an email at battasspodcast, BATTASS podcast @gmail.com, or you can hit either of us up on Instagram. Just do hashtag it, like if you're going to leave a comment or something, hashtag it like Badass Podcast, so we know that it's a question to talk about.
I read most of my messages. I go through my folder of I forget what it is, the hidden message folder, and I usually find them. Yeah, or I'll have my assistant Jake put out something on Twitter just to get some questions. Yeah,
so we'll get some questions. We'll talk. We'll kind of wrap everything up and talk about this crazy thing we've done for the past 8 years. I forget how long it's been, but it's been a minute. Yeah. But thank you guys so much for continuing to listen, and thank you, Sean.
Thank you, Clay.
We'll see you next time.